I mean, why are you here? There must be a reason for you to be here.
Yes, I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
You're going to end up fighting every elected official in this country.
Sure you don't really mean that, Lois?
Hey, gang! It's your guy to the 21st century, Nate Houseman here. I hope I'm making sound here. So, did something happen? Did we avoid war with Iran? Did we get the Epstein list yet? Hey, I'm here to discuss the controversy over the Epstein files and Pam Bondi. I stand with Pam Bondi, and a lot of you rage baiters are getting flushed out. And a lot of you normie, content creators, I love a lot of you, but I'm going to educate you. But I'm Nate Houseman. If you find this content valuable, please give it a like on whatever platform you're watching this on, either YouTube, Rumble, Kick, or X. Share with your friends and family and loved ones, and give me a follow. So we have such a vast criminal cabal against us. And I'm going to start with this post by Data Republican, which was, I believe, on Monday. And she lays it out. Data Republican, her X account has exploded in the last year, and for good reason. She's a great IT specialist. She makes great tools for regular people to investigate, our government officials and our so-called public servants. But here's what she says. I'm going to keep repeating this until people understand this. Karen Bass, the supposed mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass was not only a Castro operative and a communist, and I covered this back in January when the fires were going on. Karen Bass is not only a Castro operative and a communist, but she got elevated to the vice chair of National Endowment for Democracy, which is the center for soft power operations in the U.S. government. She's not a DEI mayor. She's extremely powerful at the global stage. She was actively involved in shaping foreign policy with the Obama administration, especially Africa. Her Ghana visit during the LA wildfires wasn't a vacation. It was part of a Biden delegation to meet Ghana's new president. She was considered the HUD secretary for the Biden administration. Instead, she nominated the person who would become the actual HHS secretary, California Attorney General Javier Becerra. Now, here's where the Republican gets the big point here. Now, let me ask you, if a literal Castro operative gets this elevated to this stage, what does that imply about the rest of the United States government? Now, think of the cleanup operation that has to be going on in the U.S. government. FBI, CIA, Congress, State Department. Every single tentacle of the executive branch, the administrative state. Think about that. Think of the cleanup job that has to be going on. There has to be stuff going on that we don't know about or that we won't know about for years, probably. So strap in. I've got a whole lot of, bookmarked X posts and True Social posts that we're going to go through. We're going to look at the wisdom of a lot of, great big X accounts, bigger than mine. But I'm going to share some wisdom of my own first. And that wisdom is, we just saw President Trump avert World War III. In fact, he really ended a war. He ended the conflict and a lot of the strife between Iran and the United States and probably Israel. Everyone has been freaking out over Israel. There are a lot of X accounts spewing a lot of propaganda against Israel and Jews. I've said this before. Israel has its own deep state just like every other country. America has a deep state. The UK has a deep state. China has a deep state. Every country has a deep state affiliate. And we need to pray for Israel's deliverance just as much as anyone else's. And if you can't, distinguish honest, law-abiding, faithful Jews and Israelis apart from the synagogue of Satan, then you probably can't, distinguish between, you're probably racist in other areas too. So we'll have that here. So before we get started, I want to mention one of my first sponsors here. I got to pay bills, and I don't just promote products, for the heck of it. I promote products and services that I find value in myself. So here goes. You've probably seen Black Rifle coffee at Walmart or in the cold brew section at the convenience store or any other corporate retail chain. Black Rifle purports to be a patriotic company supporting the Second Amendment, but they turned their backs on Kyle Rittenhouse. Phonies. Who can we trust not to sell out? If you want to support a genuine American coffee company that values your right to self-defense, choose Blackout Coffee. Not Black Rifle, Blackout. Blackout Coffee is endorsed by the Second Amendment Foundation. Their products are available online, like any self-respecting 21st century startup, and they just taste better. I know from experience. I treat myself to Blackout Coffee, and you can treat yourself by clicking on the link in my program. Again, that's Blackout Coffee, not Black Rifle. Use my link or my promo code for 10% off your purchase. Black Rifle Coffee, great stuff. I enjoy it. Now, there's a lot of consternation online on YouTube accounts I follow and the X accounts I follow about Pam Bondi and her handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case. And we're gonna start with this interview that's very controversial here, where she said, the Epstein files are on her desk. We're gonna start at the beginning here. Now, pause. Pause. Okay. John Solomon asked Pam Bondi. I'm sorry, not John Solomon. John Roberts asked Pam Bondi, "Are the Epstein files going to be released?" Did you hear what she said? She said they're on her desk. Did you hear her say yes or no? They're going to release the Epstein files. Let's listen to this again. From all these agencies. So Pam Bondi didn't directly say she herself is going to release the Epstein list, the client list. And a lot of people are acting like she did. You got to listen to words. You got to distinguish. You got to separate your emotions and your body language with words. So, and I'm thinking, I'm watching this. I think, damn, she's good. And Cash Patel is good too. We're gonna watch a clip of him on Joe Rogan, but we're gonna get to the larger bookmark folder of the wider Epstein list and MAGA versus Doomer war, because it's not just the Epstein list. It's not just the Epstein controversy. It's a lot of controversies. It's Israel. We're gonna look at it. There's a lot of fake accounts. There's a lot of supposedly right-wing accounts. There's a lot of supposed MAGA accounts who are absolute fakers. Some of them are putting out rage bait in order to grow their accounts and make money. Some of them might actually be working for, the deep state. Some of them may not know anything. They're just being emotional. But we're gonna read some very intelligent posts here. First up is Clandestine. He says huge update on the Epstein files, and most of these are going to be they're not in chronological. They're not in any particular order. They're just in the order that I bookmarked them in. This is from March 3rd. Huge update on the Epstein files. Truckload of files from Southern District of New York, that's federal prosecutors, were delivered to Cash Patel. Cash is investigating why SDNY withheld documents. Denny, remember Denny? He was the agent who blocked those files, and he when he was fired, he got a hero's exit, hero's farewell with bagpipes playing. Withheld documents to Denny, and Denny he fired. Cash's team are currently reviewing the thousands of files. Bondi calls out Biden regime for sitting on those files. Bondi says that the American people are going to see everything. Bondi admits some information will be redacted for national security and grand jury information. Remember, Epstein blackmailed high rollers from around the world. We know about Prince Andrew for sure. How much of this is also national security purview, military, CIA, national security, NSA purview? This isn't just an FBI issue or Department DOJ issue. In other words, Bondi and Cash have the situation under control, and everyone just needs to let them do their work. I understand everyone is anxious and angry, but Trump and his appointees have proven their intentions are legitimate. It's happening. The ball's rolling. So let's watch this. Here's something. Can you imagine watching children getting raped and going through mountains of that sort of video? Can you imagine what they're having to stomach while watching this, while watching all of this? It's going to take time. I mean, she said they're doing it as fast as possible, but as fast as possible does not mean fast. It means you got to be cautious. You got to have a strong. You can't be faint-hearted. You got to maybe take breaks with some of this stuff. I mean, let's continue with this video. Okay. Okay. In this video, did you catch at all? Did you hear at all when we'd get this information? She didn't say that. She said it's going to take time to go through it all, protect the victims, protect national security, and protect the grand jury. She never gave a hard date. She never gave a hard timeline. There's a reason for that. We don't want the client list and the rest of the satanic pedo cult to know our moves. We want to keep that close to the vest. We don't want to put our cards on the table. I've been debating whether I want to do this video because the last couple of days, I've been satisfied just letting the influencers and the naysayers do their thing, hem and haw, bitch and moan about nothing happening. And then today I saw a Truth Social post by the boss himself, by President Trump, saying he stands with Pam Bondi. And we're going to look at a few copies of that post. And, if the boss himself says we're clear to stand up for her, then okay. I think we've smoked out who we need to smoke out for now. Now, moving on. Mr. Truth Bomb. Now, this is a pretty lengthy post. Like I said, these are in no particular order. These are in the order that I bookmarked them. And X kind of jumbles them up. But let's read this. Did you know Donald Trump has been fighting the deep state criminal cabal since the 1980s? New York was so totally corrupt and so controlled by the mafia in the 80s that in order to be a successful businessman, you had to have some way to work in that world, said former FBI agent Walt Stowe. Trump went into a drywall manufacturing business with Daniel Sullivan, which was represented by Roy Cohn. Cohn appears to have learned a lot about the mob from Roy Cohn, who he met in 1973 at a New York nightclub. Cohn mentored the young Donald Trump in mafia-style politics. Sometime in 1979, Roger Stone met Donald Trump for the first time. The meeting was arranged by Roy Cohn. It's safe to assume that Trump met Paul Manafort shortly after, since Stone and Manafort went into business together in 1980. Trump said of Daniel Sullivan, he portrayed himself to be the closest person on earth to the FBI. One day in April 1981, Sullivan walked into Trump's Manhattan office with two men in suits. They were FBI agents, and they wanted to talk to Trump about organized crime. Trump welcomed them in. Trump soon deepened his interactions with Sullivan, who turned out to be an FBI informant, and cultivated a friendship with one of the FBI agents, a young investigator named Walt Stowe, who was one of Sullivan's handlers at the agency. Trump collaborated on a plan with Stowe and other FBI agents to allow an undercover operation at his first casino. Trump said he continued working with Sullivan only after Stowe and another agent vouched for him as 100% clean. Trump has spoken little about his interactions with the FBI or his friendship with Stowe. Trump told the Post that Stowe was a high-quality guy, but not a pal. Stowe said he remains fond of Trump and never saw him do anything illegal. He said he considered both Trump and Sullivan to be professional friends. Friends and associates recall Sullivan as a giant of a man with great charm and the embodiment of a gregarious Irishman. Hey, think about this. If you want to be a successful businessman in the 1980s in New York, you had to understand the mob. You had to understand organized crime and deal with them. How many business owners today in whatever, how many business people in whatever city you're in today have to deal with their own local affiliate of the deep state? I know. I follow a few independent journalists in my city, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and our mayor, Tiffany O'Donnell, is in it deep. So is the police department in Cedar Rapids, the police department in Marion, Iowa, which is like connected, is like right next door to Cedar Rapids. The New City District in Cedar Rapids, New Bohemian, lots of hip and progressive businesses there. I used to hang out in Nubo, but they're dead to me now. But the point is, how hard is it to run a small business in this environment if you don't know who the players are and if you don't kiss the ring. We're not just dealing with the mob. We're dealing with all sorts of, all sorts of corruption. And unless you know the scope, the scale of the corruption in your own country and around the world, we're not going to be able to make an honest living. Unless you're online, unless you're, very, very, unless you, strike a chord, just the right chord with someone. Where was I? Okay. Former law enforcement officials say Trump had a close and curious relationship with the New York division of the FBI. Former FBI Special Agent Mark Rossini said he had not personally witnessed Trump in the Bureau's office, though others had, and Trump may have been a hip pocket source for James Kallstrom and Rudy Giuliani, the top federal prosecutor in Manhattan, who would later become mayor of New York and eventually Trump's personal lawyer amid the Russiagate probe. It's worth noting Rudy Giuliani was the chief prosecutor in the commission case. That was like in 1984 and 1985. That really hit the heart of the mafia in New York. I've got a book by I forget the author's name, Selwyn something. It's titled Five Families. It's a long history of the mafia in New York, and Rudy Giuliani was key in fighting them in the 80s. He was so effective that he won the mayor's race in New York in the 90s easily. And Rudy Giuliani is renowned for cleaning out corruption. I wonder what he thinks about the FBI in New York now. I can't imagine how irate he is. Kallstrom, a former Marine, grew close to Trump over the years. The real estate developer donated over $230,000 to Kallstrom's Marine Corps Law Enforcement Foundation, in which Rush Limbaugh was a director, and provided it free space in his Atlantic City casinos for fundraisers, according to several accounts. Kallstrom became an influential Trump defender and Hillary Clinton critic during the 2016 campaign, bashing then FBI Director James Comey for failing to nail Clinton on her private email server and accusing the Obama administration officials of committing perjury in their pursuit of Russian ties to Trump and his associates. In March 2018, he went further, accusing Comey and disgraced former FBI and counterintelligence chief Peter Strzok of having a backup plan to frame Trump as a Russian agent. I wonder how much of this corruption happened during Obama's occupation. I have never called Joe Biden the president. I'm not even sure we should call Obama a president or former president. He is that evil. Former FBI Special Agent Myron Fuller, who gained fame for the FBI bribery sting, dramatized in the movie American Hustle, said Trump was an informant for somebody in the FBI New York office. A remark Trump himself made at an event years later suggested he was well placed to share tips on mafia personalities with favorite FBI officials. His casino was a honeypot. Where have we seen that before? During the height of his fame as the star of The Apprentice, Trump claimed that every network tried to get him to do a reality show, but he refused. I don't want to have cameras all over my office, dealing with contractors, politicians, mobsters, and everyone else I have to deal with in my business, he told a 2004 panel at the Museum of Television and Radio in LA. You know, mobsters don't like, as they were talking to me, having cameras all over the room. It would play well on television, but it doesn't play well with them. Trump ran an apparently failing casino in Atlantic City in the 1980s, where the Jersey and New York City mob frequented Atlantic City and the Taj often. According to a 1981 FBI memo, Trump proposed that the FBI use undercover agents in his Atlantic City casino to help take down the mob. The FBI and the Trump organization coordinated during the pre-construction phase to set it up as such. The document also details that Trump and his brother met again with the FBI in June 1981. It is clear that Trump and his younger brother Robert Trump were secret FBI informants. Trump built his Atlantic City casino to trap the mob, then he tore it down. This was a sting operation so that the FBI could get dirt on the mob money launderers, who were then prosecuted by none other than John Durham. John Durham! I think I've covered him before on this channel. Mobster Sammy the Bull Gravano, of the famous for snitching on John Gotti, Sammy the Bull Gravano said Donald Trump had ex-FBI agents all around him and he could never get to him. I tried multiple times where I tried to press him and make arrangements where I could work with him. I did that with other big contractors. I had the power of the unions. I could do all kinds of little things, but I couldn't get to him. He wouldn't bite. He just wouldn't bite. Trump's history with the FBI is interesting to say the least when you start looking into it. This author is it? It's Mr. Truthbomb. I have said many times that most people that work for the FBI are great patriots. It is the seventh floor of the FBI that looked at Trump's White House as the enemy. So the corruption starts at the top. That's the case of the FBI. It's the case of a corrupt police department. It's the case of a corrupt city hall. It all starts from the top. Did you know that Donald J. Trump worked with the FBI during the course of the initial investigation of Jeffrey Epstein during the 2006 and 2008 period, and was the reason Epstein was arrested for being a pedophile? Epstein Maxwell's targeting of Mar-a-Lago employees and guests later caused Trump to ban them from the property in 2008. Bradley Edwards, who represented many of Epstein's victims back in 2009, was sued by Epstein for defamation, countersued, and won. Had this to say about Donald Trump's involvement and cooperation with the Epstein drama. He, President Trump, is the only person who in 2009, when I served a lot of subpoenas on behalf of Epstein's victims, on a lot of people, some pretty connected people, and I wanted to talk to them. He, Trump, is the only person who picked up the phone and said, let's just talk. I'll give you as much time as you want. Tell you what you need to know. He was very helpful in the information he gave, and gave no information whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward whatsoever. But had good information that checked out, that helped us. And we didn't even have to take a deposition from him. Do you really think Epstein is dead? Or do you think he's being kept to be rolled out as a star witness to take down the deep state cabal in the near future? I hope you now see why I believe Trump has worked as an informer with the FBI for decades, and the current military operation, aka Q, that we see now wasn't the first time Trump has been asked to help take down a massive crime syndicate. We're witnessing the biggest sting operation in human history. This plan to save the world will be studied for generations, and we are the privileged ones to get to see it climactically unfold. Nothing can stop what is coming. So yeah, is Epstein alive? We'll have to see. All right, this is from News Treason Channel 17. Oh yeah, this is important. We just saw Diddy skate with a slap on the wrist for his human trafficking trial. You know who the prosecutor in that trial was? Maureen Comey, James Comey's daughter. How do you expect to get convictions of Epstein's clients when we have a court system like the one we have? Now you might say, "Oh, we got Ghislaine Maxwell. We convicted her." Yes, the White Hats captured that particular chess piece. But they and we need to capture a whole lot more chess pieces before we can go after the kings. Kings, plural. It's a figure of speech. News Treason Channel 17 is saying nailed it, and they're reacting to Kimberly Hour saying, Diddy is the lead-in. The public must be prepared for what is to come. The news. He was married to Huma Abedin, who was big buddies with Hillary Clinton. So Kimberly Hour is referring to a Q post on the Delta March 20th. The attempted coup, treason, opens the public door to more serious. The pill must be easy to swallow. The lead-in. The public must be prepared for what is about to come. The Clinton Foundation. Q. And Liz Croker likes that. But yeah, like I remember Data Republicans boast at the beginning. Just think how many bad actors are in the government. We got to do this gently so that we can ease into it. And you got to figure in the scope of the corruption. And wokeness. Now, this is important because money is the secret to the criminal syndicate, the corrupt players' power. Breaking. U.S. government shocked the budget surplus in June. First in 9+ years in defying budget deficit expectations. So yeah, we have a $26 billion surplus in the federal government's budget because of tariffs. I don't know about taxes, but if Biden taxed us so bad 4 years and we're still in debt, we still had a deficit, what does that tell you about taxes? What does that tell you about the um, the effectiveness of taxes? Sean Farash, excuse me, the amount of people who still can't get past Bongino and Cash saying the evidence given to them suggests Epstein killed himself is astounding. This was back in May. This was on May 26. What part of being bound by ethics protocols don't you understand? They can't, in their current roles, publicly speculate or theorize on anything that isn't supported by evidence they've been given. This isn't the answer that you want to hear, but it's the truth. So this was in May. It's July, and they're probably still going through the evidence. So how many of you know about John Durham and his special prosecutor investigation into the Russia collusion hoax? He had an investigation for several years, and not once was there ever a leak because he was getting his ducks in a row. He and his team, they were getting all the evidence ready for the case. Now the case he lost in court, but that was because the court was in Washington D.C. and Washington D.C. is the lion's den. It's the seat of so much corruption. Again, how do you expect to get a fair trial? How do you expect to convict these sons of bitches with the court system we have now? How many bogus judges have we seen try to overturn or counteract Trump's actions toward deportations or busting, deporting illegal aliens and criminals or anything else in Trump's agenda? This is all connected. Gunther Eagleman, posting July 11th. Breaking. Tom Homan just went off on the foreign child labor being used at a marijuana growing facility. Did you hear about that? Child labor in California growing the devil's lettuce. Says that ICE has already found 10,000 missing children. Remember, right away, Trump and his team rescued like 70,000 missing kids. There's like 300,000 missing kids altogether. So that's like 80 or 90,000 kids so far. And you're bitching about, eggs, the price of eggs. Make no mistake, Gavin Newsom allowed this to fester. Yeah, he's another spoke in the wheel. Let's listen to Tom Homan. Now, Democrats and the left aren't saying anything about this. They're mum. Think about this. This is taking chess pieces off the board. This is capturing chess pieces. Think how many, foreign militia, Julie Green on her Rumble channel, Julie Green Ministries, she talks to God, or God talks to her. God calls all of the illegal immigrants and terrorists a foreign militia. Think how many foreign militia members are in this country ready to go kinetic if they get the word, if something doesn't go the cabal's way. Now, think of these kids doing child labor. How many other kids are in other kinds of sick, awful conditions? How many of them are hostages? Think about that. You wonder why we haven't gone after like Anthony Fauci or Big Pharma? I mean, RFK is, capturing chess pieces too. He's doing his job incrementally. We got to do this incrementally. We got to rescue hostages. We got to take out terror. We got to take out sleeper agents. We got to neutralize dead man switches. We got to neutralize, any biological weapons that might be hidden or ready to go off. Any weapons of mass destruction. Think about the things that we need to take care of before we can actually go after the kingpins, the kings. You don't go for the king right away. You go for the pawns and the rooks and the knights and bishops. And then, you got to deal with the queen eventually, but let's continue. Oh, yep. I mentioned Maureen Comey. Meet Maureen Comey, daughter of deep state trader Jim Comey, who would not go after Hillary Clinton. Maureen is an assistant U.S. attorney for Southern District of New York. She happens to be involved in Trump, Russia, Ghislaine, and Epstein cases. Maureen is a deep state fixer. She's now fixing the Diddy case. How is she not fired day one? Because she's protected by all those layers. I'm not being a doomer. I'm being a realist. I'm explaining to you that these things take time, and you got to gird yourself. You got to be prepared for self-defense. I'm not saying we, the civilians, we, the citizens, have to go out looking for a fight. We just need to be ready to, defend ourselves in case we're attacked. And that'll bring me to another sponsor in a little bit here. But here is the video, the supposed video from Epstein's prison. So, Amu says, Epstein, this is really bad. He's commenting on Election Wizard saying, breaking, metadata shows the footage from the Jeffrey Epstein cell that was released by the DOJ was edited with Adobe Premiere Pro, stitched from 2 clips, and was saved 4 times per Wired magazine. So, if you ever see any screenshot of a controversial grok, statement like Mecha Hitler, or any controversial video of, say, Netanyahu, or some woman who might be a man, there's got to be ways to look up the metadata on that media. The metadata is the data about the data. You can don't go on Google, but go on a website like Brave Search or presearch.org or .com and look up ways to look up metadata on something. And a whole new world will open up to you, and you will not look at social media slop the same way again. And you'll be much wiser, and you might feel a lot better about what you see. Oh, this is important. Obamacare was created specifically for child trafficking. Obamacare is one of the most vile crimes against the United States ever. But let's listen to this. This is a post is composed kind of funny. Musk's Doge team gets access to sensitive child support database despite objections from officials. We're going to talk about Elon Musk and Doge and the supposed feud, because I do believe they're putting on, Elon and Trump are putting on an act. That issue's not done yet, but stay frosty. Now let's listen to this. our healthcare industry is captured. Child Protective Services is probably a child trafficking front operation. You know what? I'm gonna pitch one of my other, you know, sponsors, referral partners, because healthcare is like at the root of a lot of things here. So I'm not just doing this to make money. I'm just doing this to help people escape from the system. 80% of Americans injected a dangerous drug that they were told would protect them from COVID-19. Instead of protection, millions have suffered blood clots, altered personalities, reproductive dysfunction, and more. If you're like me, you're outraged by what was done to you. You don't have to admit you were wrong. You can admit you were lied to by your doctor, your employer, even your church, by every institution that should have had your back. The good news is there are remedies waiting to be rolled out. President Trump, Vice President Vance, Elon Musk, Dan Bongino have taken the COVID shot, and they're working confidently to make America great again. They know something. Until the world is ready, preparations are being made by true conscientious medical professionals. They're building alternatives to the medical establishment that betrayed us. One of those alternatives is the Wellness Company, and I'm honored to be one of their referral partners. They provide multiple supplements to help detox from the COVID shots. They also provide medical kits with ivermectin, the antiviral and anti-parasite medication that Big Pharma dreads. Follow the Wellness Company and the research until we're made whole and on to the new health paradigm. Click on the link and use my promo code for 10% off your purchase. Reclaim your health. Yeah, again, I'm not just doing this to make money. I'm doing this to help us get out of the system, get out of the criminal empire. Now, moving on. Clandestine says this. This was on July 10th. Observe the timeline. July 8th, Supreme Court overrules California District Judge blocking Trump's executive order to undertake large-scale reductions at federal agencies. Trump now gets to fire and lay off and cut the bloat in earnest. July 10th, we get reports that there are mass firings going on at the DOJ FBI. Sounds like Trump got the green light to begin his mass cuts into the intelligence community, and the swamp purge is underway. Now Trump and his appointees can remove any bad actors at will, under the guise of government efficiency. Brilliant. I understand people are thirsty for results, but Trump and his team haven't even fully cleaned house yet. Activist Democrat judges have been obstructing him this entire time. Trump signed this executive order in February, and just 2 days ago, it was finally overturned by the Supreme Court. Clearly, there are still leakers and deep state loyalists embedded in the DOJ and FBI. Wouldn't it make sense for Trump and his appointees to remove the bad apples first? Patience. There are layers to this. So yeah, why are we still waiting for the Epstein clients? One, because Bondi and Cash have to go through the evidence, and two, they have to clean house. And now Trump just got the go-ahead from the Supreme Court. Awakened Outlaw here says, reminder, something can be real and fake simultaneously. I think he's referring to the internal document from Axios. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. A document, for example. That said, it's absolutely possible that a leaked document could be created and shared internally for the express purposes that it would be leaked to the fake news media. If true, that would mean Caroline Leavitt would be telling the truth about the veracity of the document, while the information contained therein could be fake. Damn, they're good. Okay, this is the art of war. They're making the enemy think it's okay to let their guard down. It's not just Pam Bondi is good. It's not just Cash is good. It's not just Trump is good. It's Caroline Leavitt. And she's still in her 20s. Man, if I was that on the ball when I was 27 or 28. But I've got ADHD, so I don't do well in big organizations. Am I still here? Can you hear me? Can you see me? My picture's out. Hang on. Looks like my microphone's working, but my camera is not. So I'll just stay out of your way. Now, this is from Chuck Grassley, Senator Chuck Grassley, who's my senator. He's from Iowa. Proud to call him my senator. New GAO report I'm releasing says Secret Service knew of a threat to President Trump's life 10 days before the Butler assassination attempt, but didn't share info with staff on the ground, so they were unprepared. Report identifies Secret Service problems, plus recommends fixes. This info never would have been made public without congressional oversight. Congressional oversight. And I see now on my clock it's 12 a.m. Today is the anniversary of Butler, Pennsylvania, when we caught a miracle, an act of God on video, on camera, of Trump turning his head just the right way to avoid getting killed. And we pray for the family of Corey Comparatori, but goddamn, God saved Trump's life. And you still, and you doubt him and his team. Trump is God's modern day David. Continuing. Now, here's the document that Caroline Leavitt mentioned. The unverified Epstein memo brought to you by Axios. The same Axios responsible for these very credible news stories. Everyone needs to chill the fuck out until a reliable source chimes in. Yeah, Axios is a confirmed deep state front. I think we're gonna see the video of Caroline Leavitt addressing that. But first, we're going to read what Viva Frey has to say. This is from July 11th. I say this with the utmost respect, without any snark or sass. The entire confusion stems from the fact that literally nobody signed off on the undulated and unsigned memo, nor did anyone take any responsibility for it. It was leaked to Axios and quietly uploaded to the DOJ website the next day. That is specifically the origin of all the confusion and controversy. Other than Caroline Leavitt's brief comment on the memo, no one has even assumed authorship of it or presented it officially, to such a bizarre point that people were hypothesizing that the memo was fake. Perhaps a press conference to discuss the memo and its findings, and not a tweet 1 week later after the controversy has gone viral. Now, Viva Frey is saying this July 11th. That was Friday. This is from July 7th. Remember, this was before Trump got the go-ahead to clean out DOJ and the rest of the executive branch. So let's listen to this video. Peter Doocy asked Caroline Leavitt about the Epstein Island client list that AG Pam Bondi said she had on her desk. What's your opinion of her answer to this question? Again, we come back to Awakened Outlaw. Something can be real and fake simultaneously. The memo was probably faked by the FBI. That doesn't mean the FBI didn't make it. Caroline Leavitt is telling the truth. And she's telling it in such a way that the bad guys let their guard down. Now that Trump was able to clean house thanks to the Supreme Court, the executive order goes into effect, he can give the all clear for us to defend Pam Bondi and actually go after these bastards. Yeah, clandestine. Let's see. Let's come back to him. It started to look like the internet and influencer crowd overreacted and jumped to conclusions based on a leaked unofficial memo draft from a known deep state asset, Axios. He's saying this on July 10th. Then this emotion-laced hysteria was amplified by bad actors and useful stooges. The public were whipped into a frenzy. Influencers were turning on Trump, Bondi, Cash, Bongino, etc., all over an unofficial leak from a nefarious source. Now we have official statements via a Freedom of Information federal court filings from Judicial Watch that the DOJ FBI confirmed the Epstein situation is not resolved and search efforts for information are still ongoing. Meaning that 99% of the internet overreacted, the sky is not falling, Trump and his appointees are not compromised, and that the investigations are still underway. Much of the information about Epstein and the other deep state criminality is not where it's supposed to be. Trump loyalists are still looking for it. The swamp built-in fail-safes to protect themselves. The show goes on. So this must be the memo. It's truth that can be made by the FBI, but it can still be fake. Nothing to see here, posting on July 7th, saying, the people who knew about Epstein and Pizzagate before anyone else are extremely calm right now. They're not buying into the doom. Now, did you hear about Dan Bongino wanting to resign from the FBI? I'm sure that was a surprise to Dan Bongino. Hans Monkey says this about, okay, first we'll read the Axios. Again, unknown deep state player. FBI Director Dan Bongino took a day off from work after White House clashed with AG Pam Bondi over their handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files. 4 sources familiar with the conflict told Axios. Hans Monkey says, I treat this with skepticism, and the 48-hour rule definitely applies. But one thing is certain, Bongino is a bellwether. If he ever packs up and walks away, we'll know the place is beyond saving. This is from April 22nd. President Trump is asked about the Epstein files, and he says he'll speak to Pam Bondi about it. Like I said, these are not in chronological order, but let's see here. It's only a minute long. We'll listen to it. We did get JFK files. Maybe not all of them, but like I said, President Trump did not give a specific date or a timeline or anything. We are going to get transparency. We are going to get this information. We just don't know when. And more importantly, the deep state cabal does not know when. They don't know when the hammer's going to drop. So much the better. Epstein's former lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, puts his hand to God and swears he knows are being suppressed to protect individuals pertaining. I'm here to tell you right now, it's not Trump. These people have been protected long before Trump showed up or any of his appointees. Dershowitz's comments here back up the position that the Trump, FBI, and DOJ, they're still looking for documents that many are protected under court order. People are right that a cover-up is happening, but it's not Bondi, Cash, or Bongino doing the cover-up. The cover-up already happened. A minute and a half long. We'll move on. And Cernovich on July 7th said what clandestine James Comey did. I can get 5 lawyers to DOJ as part of a special envoy to find out what's happening, find out what's hidden. This is on Timcast. Yep. Thank you, Tim. A statement from the White House. Clandestine again. You are welcome to trust anonymous sources and hearsay, but the official statement from the Trump White House via press secretary is that Trump is proud of Bondi and that the continued fixation on sowing discord in Trump's cabinet is baseless and unfounded in reality. The White House's official statements are pretty much saying Trump is with Bondi and everyone else on his team, and that the hysteria is unfounded, and this idea of division is being intentionally amplified to sow discord. Exactly. That's really the point of this whole podcast, this whole episode. Levitt is saying that this Bondi Patel Bongino saga is merely the latest iteration of the deep state operation to fracture Trump's cabinet and obstruct his administration from accomplishing the MAGA agenda. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see how everything unfolds, but I'm more inclined to give validity to official statements from the Trump White House than anonymous sources from Axios and clickbait influencers. Yeah, a lot of this is clickbait. Oh yeah, Cynical Publius on July 11th makes a very, very good point. Dear MAGA people prone to conspiracy thinking, which is rightfully most of us, please consider the fact that the current DOJ, led by Pam Bondi, has resulted in more courtroom successes for the modern conservative agenda than any of us have ever experienced in any of our lifetimes, even if you're 100 plus years old. Please consider further that the current DOJ, led by Pam Bondi, has done so while causing the Democrats and rogue judges to wholly discredit themselves by sheer narcissistic stupidity. Please consider that this is all a transformational approach that has completely changed the trajectory of the American justice system and has allowed the enactment of the most significant aspects of the MAGA agenda. Finally, please consider that the real conspiracy is to destroy such success by making MAGAs rabid over Epstein evidence that may or may not exist, thereby wrecking DOJ leadership in the same manner as when Jeff Sessions was sabotaged. Jeff Sessions, Trump's original attorney general. I'm pretty good spotting actual conspiracies to undermine our success, so please consider all I have to say. Your pal, Cynical Publius. Oh, here's the infamous. Okay, so she says Epstein killed himself, that there is video of that. Now, earlier we wondered if Epstein is alive and he's under witness protection. Some intelligent people have pointed out that, yeah, the government will lie about people being alive or dead if they're in witness protection. So that's an area where lying is justified. Brian Cates. Oh yeah, we're gonna go over this one. Brian Cates is reacting to a post by a leading report. Breaking: House Judiciary Committee ranking member Jamie Raskin, Democrat, calls for a hearing to subpoena Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino to publicly release all information they have on the Jeffrey Epstein files. So they're getting the Democrats to demand this. Swish. Brian Cates says, if you can't figure out what Trump is doing here after 10 years of watching him, you're not even trying. You've turned your mind on autopilot, and you're allowing yourself to be manipulated and controlled. So... Oh, yeah, we're going to read this one. 17 Absolute Redux 76 makes a good point. The Epstein stuff isn't finished. Not by a long shot. You're witnessing a bait and switch. You're witnessing the deep state being lulled into a false sense of security. You're witnessing consent being manufactured for the full release of the files. Why? Because all sectors are now officially enraged over the perceived rug pull. Lefties, righties, moderates, blue-pilled, red-pilled, Q-pilled, doesn't matter. Now everyone is screaming for the release transparency of the Epstein files. And that, my friends, is how you manufacture consent so that when the time comes to do what must be done, the public at large will accept it. Yep. This is why I've paused on defending Bondi the last couple of days, because I thought, you know what? Let the influencers think that Team Trump is on the ropes. But I decided, nope, it's time to get back in. I stand with Pam Bondi. O hour or 0 hour. Yep, we're gonna read this post by President Trump on Truth Social. What's going on with my boys and in some cases gals? They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is doing a fantastic job. We're on one team. Make America great again. And I don't like what's happening. We have a perfect administration. The talk of the world, and selfish people are trying to hurt it. All over a guy who never dies. Jeffrey Epstein. A guy who never dies? For years, it's Epstein, over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration who conned the world with Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agents, the laptop from hell, and more? They created the Epstein files, just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton's Christopher Steele dossier that they used on me, and now my so-called friends are playing right into their hands. Why didn't these radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? If there was anything in there that would have hurt the MAGA movement, why didn't they use it? They haven't even... I need to open this. Oh no, it's cropped. I know a lot of other people have screenshotted this, so we're gonna read the whole thing later. But 0 Hour says this. I know what these fucks did now. Merrick Garland and his crony friends added Trump to the list with zero proof. Read it close. This may have been an actual plot by the old DOJ to leave behind a political ticking shitstorm. Now I got a different sense to it. Brian Cates on July 8th has this to say. You do realize, to try to bury the story about Brennan, Clapper, Strzok, Page, Rice, Biden, McCabe now being targets of an FBI criminal investigation into Spygate, you're about to see the fake news and Union Party Democrats screaming loudly for the Epstein files for the next week. Works for me. Wink, wink. Yeah, so did you hear? There's now an investigation into John Brennan and James Comey, the very, very corrupt CIA and FBI directors, who were part of Russia collusion, that hoax, who were part of Obama's cabal, criminal gang. Now that Trump can root out, can fire really get rid of the bad guys from the FBI, it's game on. Now here's the full quote by Trump here. We're gonna continue here. What's going on with my boys and in some cases gals? They're going after the Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is doing a fantastic job. We're on one team, MAGA, and I don't like what's happening. We have a perfect administration, the talk of the world, and selfish people are trying to hurt it, all over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein. For years, it's Epstein, over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration who conned the world with Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agents, the 51 intelligence agents who said Hunter Biden's laptop was phony, the laptop from hell, and more. They created the Epstein files, just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton, Christopher Steele dossier that they used on me. and now my so-called friends are playing right into their hands. Why didn't the radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? If there was anything in there that could have hurt the MAGA movement, why did they use it? They haven't even given up on the JFK or Martin Luther King files. No matter how much success we've had securing the border, deporting criminals, fixing the economy, energy dominance, a safer world where Iran will not have nuclear weapons, it's never enough for some people. We are about to achieve more in 6 months than any other administration has achieved in over 100 years, and we have so much more to do. We are saving our country and making America great again, which will continue to be our complete priority. The left is imploding. Kash Patel and the FBI must be focused on investigating voter fraud, political corruption, Act Blue, the rigged and stolen election of 2020, and arresting thugs and criminals instead of spending month after month looking at nothing but the same old radical left-inspired documents on Jeffrey Epstein. Let Pam Bondi do her job. She's great. The 2020 election was rigged and stolen, and they tried to do the same thing in 2024. That's what she's looking into as AG, and much more. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. Let's keep it that way, and not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, aside from nobody caring about Epstein, after social post says it all. I could probably end the program right here, but we won't because there's a lot more good stuff. But Liz Crokin has this to say about the Truth Social post. So I'm pretty sure that President Trump just confirmed that Jeffrey Epstein is not dead, and the Epstein files were written by hot dog boy Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and other satanic pedophile cabal players. If you know what the phrase hot dog means, then yeah, okay. And if you don't, I don't know if I want to say it on YouTube, but let's continue. Well, of course that makes sense, since the old FBI protected Epstein for decades, and of course Hillary was behind the Epstein cover-up, considering she's a co-conspirator and a ringleader of his elite pedophile ring via the Clinton Foundation that both Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell claimed they co-founded. I've only been saying this for 9 years. Right. About now would be a good time for exposure on the other laptop from hell, the Anthony Weiner laptop, and Rachel Chandler, so the world can learn just how deep the Epstein rabbit hole goes. It must really suck to be a fake mug or a panikin right now, because we have it all. It wasn't just a catchphrase, and justice is coming. We have it all. It wasn't just a catchphrase, and justice is coming. Checkmate and cozy as fuck. Keck. So yeah. Brian Cates, on July 8th, we're coming back to the whole Brennan and Comey thing, and John Durham. This is John Durham. Brian Cates says, "Let me explain something for those of you in Rio Linda." Old Rush Limbaugh reference. "You cannot run a criminal investigation into the roles that Comey and Brennan played in launching and sustaining the Spygate hoax without also examining the roles of the massive RICO criminal conspiracy played by," there's like 20 names on here: Hillary Clinton, Jake Sullivan, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Susan Rice, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Joseph Pientka, Lisa Page, Sally Yates, Lisa Monaco, Christopher Steele, Igor Danchenko, Bruce and Nellie Orr, Stefan Helper, Glenn Simpson, Peter Frisch of Fusion GPS, Loretta Lynch, Mark Elias, James Clapper, and Michael Sussman. Have a nice night. So yeah. Whether it looks like it or not, they're part of Epstein too. Everything is part of Epstein. Epstein is part of everything. It's all connected. I'll say again, this is all one big chess game. WDW Pro usually doesn't talk about, Washington politics per se. He talks about entertainment, especially Disney. But he's got this to say. If you want people more, not less, suspicious of Epstein, you would do what President Trump is doing. Bullseye. On July 9th, coming back to Data Republican, breaking. Jeffrey Epstein once claimed to work for the CIA. Been doing research with Lamps Apple all evening, and yeah, Epstein did claim to work for the CIA in a 2001 Evening Standard article. This is from the Evening Standard, Monday, January 22nd, 2001. Page 287. I don't know if I want to read the whole excerpt, but he has a license to carry a concealed weapon, once claimed to have worked for the CIA, although he now denies it, and owns properties all over America. Yep. Wait a minute. Dress more suitably for a shopping trip on Fifth Avenue than an English pheasant drive in his LL Bean hunting boots and $1,000 leather parka, Jeffrey Epstein cut a curious figure alongside Ghislaine and Andrew at the Sandringham shooting party. Andrew, is that Prince Andrew? More at home in the world of international finance than the English countryside, the immensely wealthy financier and property developer maintains a mysterious presence in New York. He has a license to carry a concealed weapon, once claimed to have worked for the CIA, although now denies it, and owns properties all over America. Once he arrived at the London home of a British arms dealer bringing a gift, a New York police issue pump action riot gun. God knows how he got into the country, a friend said. He is also a close associate of multimillionaire Leslie Wexner, owner, among other companies, of Victoria's Secret. Boom! Epstein has the use of Wexner's $40 million New York house and owns 7 cars, including a V8 Corvette and a 1964 Volkswagen. He also owns a $3.5 million pink villa in Palm Beach and a $3 million 26,700 square foot fortress-like hilltop mansion in New Mexico, fitted with $600 bed sheets. One local said they think he's flown in from Mars down there. Epstein began working for Wexner in 1985, and by the late 80s had become wealthy through, among other things, handling his worldwide air freight. Okay, and this part's cropped off, but this was in 2001. He was able to get firearms into the UK. He rubbed shoulders with British royalty. He rubbed shoulders with the big boss of Victoria's Secret. He owns multiple properties across the US and probably around the world. The island was surely not the only place where weird shit went down. Now, this is really important. This is from July 11th. Patriots in Control says, John Solomon says Trump supporters that are demanding accountability are in for some big surprises in the next 10 days. So by July 21st, we're going to see some stuff. MAGA-based Americans are going to be happy when they see where this is all heading in the next few weeks. He says there's a major investigation ongoing in the DOJ and FBI regarding where the Russiagate conspiracy began. John Solomon is one of the most credible journalists out there. If he says it, you can believe it's almost certainly true. So let's see here. This video is a minute and a half long. Yeah, we're going to listen to it. Okay, so I'm hyped. I'm very encouraged. Continuing. This is from Disclosed TV on July 10th. Now, Secretary Rubio, there wasn't a policy decision not to give weapons to Ukraine. Okay, yeah, did you hear about this? We're supposedly helping Ukraine in the war. Not quite. No one ever said we're not sending weapons to Ukraine. We're looking for creative ways to provide them these defensive weapons. Again, these are defensive weapons. Let's listen. These are defensive weapons, meaning they don't want Ukraine to kill Russian troops. They probably don't want Russian troops to kill Ukrainians. So there. And they're getting Europe involved in this. So yeah, you're actually the someone X-22 report pointed this out. Trump is driving NATO and the rest of Europe into actually taking a stand on this, not just giving money, but making decisive action and forcing their hand. Where this goes, this probably goes into negotiations for peace. I don't remember all the details from that X-22 report. I don't think I have a bookmark, but we'll continue here. Here. Cynical Publius has a great. We're coming back to Cynical Publius. He's got some more wisdom for us. Remember that time I called out the Black Insurrectionist as a hoax designed to discredit the MAGA movement? For those who aren't active on Twitter, Black Insurrectionist is a profile that purported to be doing ride-alongs with people rescuing child trafficking victims, supposedly a MAGA supporter. And then he all of a sudden came out with a bogus story about, I think it was Tim Walz. And we found out, he's a phony. Well, he's far from the only phony. Cynical Publius says, remember that time I called out the Black Insurrectionists as a hoax designed to discredit the MAGA movement? Remember how I got ripped and unfollowed by literally thousands of MAGA stalwarts? Remember how I was right? My spidey sense is tingling right now the same way it was then. The anonymously sourced Cash and Bongino hate Bondi and are going to quit story feels the same to me as the Black Insurrectionist nonsense. I could be wrong, and if I am, I'll freely own it. But I don't think I am. Time will tell. Add Ian Carroll and Ariel to the list. I've quoted them before, and I'm not going to quote them anymore unless I'm going to criticize them because they're also bogus. This video is 3 minutes long, so we're not going to watch the whole thing, but we're just going to see what Patriots in Control has to say. People seem to forget Kash Patel was the chief investigator that uncovered the Russiagate hoax. Now that we know he's criminally investigating Comey and Brennan's roles in Russiagate, watch this clip from the plot against the president. Kash already knows all roads lead to Hillary Clinton and the DNC. Accountability is coming. So we're going to skip over it, but Kash knows where the bodies are buried. Storm has arrived, says, do you see what I see? Kash and Bondi are investigating the 2024 and 2024 elections. Coming back to Trump's Truth Social post, and Patriots in Control has highlighted, Kash Patel and the FBI must be focused on investigating voter fraud, political corruption, Act Blue, the rigged and stolen election of 2020, and arresting thugs and criminals instead of spending month after month looking at nothing but the same old radical left inspired documents on Jeffrey Epstein. Let Pam Bondi do her job. She's great. The 2020 election was rigged and stolen. They have tried to do the same thing in 2024. That's what she was looking into as the AG and much more. So, yeah, let's not take away from all the other great stuff that, Bondi and Kash are doing. Because, like I said, all of it's connected. Everything is Epstein. Epstein is everything. Now, I thought I had a lot more anti-Israel controversies here, but in this folder, but we're nearing the end. I might do a Israel and Iran video later, even though it's not as fresh in the news, but I think it's worth going over. But Data Republican says, sure, Andrew Torba, who is the boss man at Gab, Andrew Torba accusing the world of being under a Talmudic fever dream when the Talmud has no relevance to the majority of the Jews, and the ones who do study it vote for Trump. So referring to a poll, Pew Research Center. Okay, that sells it. I mean, I have a rule about analyzing polls, and it is as simple and reliable as a Glock. If it ain't Rasmussen, it's garbage. But let's see. Jews less likely than Americans overall to attend religious services weekly, believe in God, the Bible. Percentage say religion is very important to them. Da-da-da. Okay. Most U.S. Jews identify as Democrats, but most Orthodox are Republicans. Pew Research Center. Well, because it's not Rasmussen, we're not going to worry about it much. But here's the last post in this folder, and then we're going to get the home stretch here. Real AF Patriot says as of 5 hours ago, so July 12th, Trump is brilliant. By backing Bondi, he is showing us exactly who not to follow. Whee! So, got a collage of very popular, supposedly right-wing posts here. George Behizzi says, there's no foreign justice taking place. The truth is that the United States is still a nation under blackmail. The Epstein cover-up is more evidence of that. It's actually very insulting how the administration is doing it. It's a tragic betrayal. So, George is out. The Patriot Voice says, Trump saying no one cares about Epstein files is the equivalent of saying people don't really care if high-profile pedophile politicians, celebrities, continue to rape and ritually sacrifice children. I'm pretty damn positive the vast majority of MAGA cares about getting justice for the victims of Epstein and company heinous crimes against children, and in fact voted for exactly that. Patriot Voice, you're on notice. Isaac's Army says, Trump would really like it if you stop talking about Epstein. The guy's in self-destruct mode. Isaac's Army, you are out. And Retard Finder says, okay, that does it. I'm posting Trump. This breaks my heart. But then again, it makes me feel better about Netanyahu because Retard Finder says Netanyahu is a retard. So yeah. We're clearing. We're not just clearing out the bad apples in DOJ. We're clearing out the bad apples in so-called MAGA Twitter. So take heart. And this is why I feel better about defending Pam Bondi now, because I've always stood by her, but I've wanted the trolls and the deep state players to be lulled to a false sense of security. Now that Trump is saying he stands with Bondi, that gives me the all clear. So there you have it. I think we're going to pay some more bills here. And which video do I want to read here? Okay, here, let's watch this one. This is NordVPN. The right to bear arms is vital to the self-defense of Americans, and it's enshrined in our Second Amendment. But did you know your right to privacy is just as important? If criminals, corporations, or even the government learned your secrets, you'd be at their mercy. That's why the Fourth Amendment protects Americans and requires law enforcement to obtain warrants before they search you. The bad news is, online, big tech colludes with government to bypass the Fourth Amendment. This was revealed in the Twitter files. The good news is, you can guard your online privacy with a VPN. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and it masks your computer's IP address and browsing history. I'm proud to partner with NordVPN, the industry leader. With one NordVPN account, you can guard multiple electronic devices. You can share files between your protected devices, and you can set your VPN to other countries. That way you can access content that's not available in your region. Again, that's NordVPN, the #1 VPN in the world. Click on my link and protect yourself from prying eyes. Okay, we're at the home stretch here. We're going to go to Truth Social for a couple posts, and Karma Patriot has a great insight here. Karma Patriot says, my theory, and she posts this today, or yesterday, July 12th, my theory is that the Epstein investigation was handed over to DHS and ICE, namely ICE's Human Rights Violators and War Crimes Center, along with collaboration from ICE's ERO, HSI, and OPLA. Many of the Epstein-related crimes occurred overseas and involved people from around the globe that were involved in trafficking, international human rights violations, foreign emoluments, RICO, and war crimes. According to the ICE website, the HRVWCC is the only U.S. government entity focused entirely on investigating these global atrocities. They work with many government agencies such as Department of State, Department of Defense, that would be under Pete Hegseth, Department of the Army, Criminal Investigation Division, Special Investigations Field Office, the DOJ, which is Pam Bondi, Criminal Division, Human Rights and Special Prosecutions, section of HRSP, the DOJ Civil Division, DHS ICE, that would be Tom Homan, DHS with Kristi Noem, DHS Customs and Border Protection, and the FBI, which is Cash and International Human Rights Unit. The HRVWCC is at the forefront of the U.S. government's efforts to prevent the United States from becoming a safe haven for individuals who commit war crimes, genocide, torture, and other human rights abuses around the world. HRVWCC also works with foreign law enforcement and international partners and tribunals to further global accountability. HSI team members, joined by our HRVWCC partners, are organized into regional support teams. And she has a link to ICE's website. A friend recommended that I repost some of my ICE digs because they really tie in with what's playing out right now. So I'm trying to gather all my ICE posts and see what applies to current events. But gotta admit, I've even overwhelmed myself with all the ICE info I've collected over the past few years. More to come. And she's taking the X-22 report. So that may be part of the whole play here. We say, even if Pam Bondi isn't and Cash Patel aren't doing anything, that doesn't mean the Trump team is not doing anything. It's being handled by someone else. So Karma Patriot again says, can you see the pattern? Influencers on both sides quote anonymous sources to seed a narrative. The Mockingbird Media Network then uses each other, along with words like reportedly and obtained, to validate the leaks and perpetuate the lies that they themselves created. And we still fall for it every single time. A source close to Dan Bongino. Source close to DOJ says Cash Patel, such and such. First reported by Loomer. Sources told her. Patel is reportedly also frustrated. It was reported that Bongino. FBI DOJ memo obtained by Axios. According to Axios, Bongino. CNN reported that Bongino has told people. The Daily Wire reported that Bongino says, Daily Wire. Yeah, I'm done with them. Break out of the Matrix. So she's got a collage of different tweets here. But yeah, I mean, we know the left-wing corporate media does this. They did it all through Russian collusion. They said anonymous sources said such and such about Trump. So we know that's bogus. We ought to catch it on, excuse me, we ought to catch it on the other side too. Because, like I always say, there are real liberals and there are phony liberals. There are real conservatives and there are fake conservatives. The phonies are the real enemies. Real liberals and real conservatives ought to be working together. RFK Jr. is a real liberal. Tulsi Gabbard is a real liberal. Elon Musk is a real liberal. And I thought I had a lot more posts about the kayfabe between Elon and Trump on this folder, but I think we'll get to that in another video. But suffice to say, Trump is a master at trolling. He's a master at, tricking the deep state. Think about this. Remember when Ron DeSantis was running for president in 2024? He was, in 2023 before that. He was running in the caucuses and the primaries, and he was making a fool of himself. We all thought, what the hell? We loved you, Ron. What's going on? Why can't you support Trump? Ron DeSantis was running a play with Trump. They were luring out more snakes and more rhinos out of the whole Republican Party. It was a game. Trump and DeSantis have been buddies all the time. Now think about Trump's tax returns. Why would Trump refuse to make his tax returns open to the public? Why did he take it all the way up to the Supreme Court? Because he wanted the Supreme Court to set a precedent. Now that the Supreme Court ruled against Trump, the Democrats played into his hands. The deep state played into his hands. Now, every president and most public officials need to make their tax information public. Trump played them. Trump is playing the deep state now. Trump is playing the cabal right now. If you haven't caught on to what he does, then you're choosing to be stupid. Trump is a master troll, and the Epstein list is going to be his masterpiece. We're going to wrap this up, and we're going to come back to Data Republican again as soon as the Twitter page loads, because she has something very important to say on the anniversary of Butler, Pennsylvania. Again, prayers to the family of Corey Comparatore. He fulfilled his highest duty as a man by giving his life to his family. Now, Data Republican says, if you're a non-believer, the game ended millennia ago. I've long said this. The globalist machine is too vast for any one person to dismantle. The only way to win is to reject all human game theory and submit ourselves to the same God who brought down Jericho, with a handful of people blowing trumpets. For someone like me, raised up from silence and isolation, this past year has been humbling. Remember, Data Republican, she's deaf. I think she's mute too. If you'll allow the comparison, exactly 1 year ago in Butler, Pennsylvania, we witnessed a miracle. Trump just happened to turn his head the right way, and America was saved in a day. I believe another has happened to me. A woman who had no voice now speaks, overnight, for the first time ever. I don't know where it'll lead. I just know it's all God's work. So, bring it back to the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. I pray from the book of Psalms, not every day, but pretty often. I have a list of Psalms that I go through, and a list of people who I dedicate them to, including myself, including my family, including my friends, including my rideshare passengers, including my online audience, and a lot of people in different industries. I even include people who I need to forgive, like toxic family members, the boomer generation, Hollywood, the criminal syndicate, what have you. I might make a video on that. But if nothing else, look up Psalm 91 and servicemen in Iraq. Psalm 91 has saved lives. People have testified to this on YouTube. And that will get you going. That should fire you up. The Psalms are examples of prayers that are in agreement with God. Julie Green talks about this all the time. Praying is a good thing. You can ask God for things as long as they're in agreement with what he wants. How do you know what's in agreement with him? Well, read the Psalms and kind of follow their examples. In fact, dedicate the Psalms to yourself or to different situations. There's a Psalm for lots of different situations. So start there. Start with the Lord's Prayer, which Christ Jesus gave us. And we have, lots of support. We have lots of precedent before us in God's Word. We have lots of help and lots of, support from on high. The Psalms have been key in restoring my mental health the last few years. I have so many regrets about the COVID shot. Thank God I stopped at 2, but so many people weren't so fortunate. They were in bad situations where they were forced to. And don't say, oh, you were forced to stand up for yourself and you didn't. You don't know what abuse is. Go watch my video on how abuse changes the architecture of your brain. I'm not saying I was abused directly, but I was bullied a lot. I have ADHD, so people pleasing was beaten into me. What I'm saying is the Psalms getting into God's Word has been a benefit to my mental health, helping me recover, and helping me have hope for the future. So a lot of people are in a dark place right now, and just know that God does not want you in the situation. A lot of the bad things that are happening to you, they're not God's work. They're the devil's doing. And God wants to help you out. Go watch Julie Green Ministries on Rumble. She's wonderful. I started watching her rather than going to the Methodist Church, but I'll leave it at that. So now, with that, like I said, if you find this content valuable, we've gone on for about an hour and 40 minutes. If you find this content valuable, like I said, please share it. Give it a like on whatever platform you're watching this on. Give it a thumbs up. And follow me on whatever platform you're watching this on. Rumble, YouTube, X or kick. I need to figure out how to get out of the again, but because that's been flicking out on me the last few times. But I want to help you. I want to speak life and be a booster. So with that, I'll let you go. I'm a Houseman, letting you know more than ever, it's okay to stand up for yourself. Over and out.